a very quick demo because I know lunch is done of Corelogics and what Corelogics is and why we're different and why we exist in the market. So what Corelogics is observability for logs, metrics, tracing, and security. The company launched 2017 with Streama, the technology that enables us to basically analyze all data before it's stored or indexed. That's the main power of Coralogix, is that the state in Coralogix is held in the stream in a sharded way instead of being used from the storage. So what that gives us is a variety of advantages to analyze the data, run all the alerts, aggregations, anomaly detection, clustering algorithms, parsing, enrichment, and so on. Everything in stream, and then the index and the storage are only used for queries. So when you use them only for queries, we have a lot more freedom to support different dashboards, Kibana, Grafana, Jaeger, SQL client, CLI. We don't mind the syntax. It can be Lucene or regex or free text or PromQL or SQL. And it's a lot faster, a lot more reliant, and also doesn't care about mapping or mapping conflicts or mapping exceptions. The alerts are bulletproof, and the cost is typically 70% lower than any other product in the market because our unit economics are different. We do everything in stream, and our storage costs are much lower. We serve over 2,000 companies worldwide. These are just some of them that we found relevant for this region. Our customers also include giants like Sony and Disney and Facebook and Lufthansa that is mentioned here. And just to show you real quick what is special about Coralogix, here's our interface. So what you're seeing here, the main thing to remember is the data flow pipeline. So data flow is basically Streama. Once you send the data from anywhere, we don't care about the format of the data and what collectors you use. There are over 100 different collectors. We enable you to parse, enrich, prioritize the data, we'll look at it in a minute, into the different use cases. Extract metrics on the fly with millions of different labels that you can put on log data into a metric that is stored for a year. And we enable you to archive the data and then query that archive directly from Coralogix or pull the data back. When I say directly, that means you don't need to re-index. We query your own archive, your own S3, directly from Coralogix using any syntax. So let me show you a few really cool things that we know how to do. I'm going to the main logs and metrics screen. I'm going to go to the condensed view. And let's say now I want to create an investigation. So the power here is that I can query this data from the archive or from the hot index, and I can combine logs, metrics, traces, and security information because they're all in the same store and different syntaxes can be ran on the same store. So I'll show you like a really nice trick. I'm going to go and say, give me the average of the how long it took an HTTP request to return, and group this by the request method. And then I can also add a comparison. So compare that to, let's say, 60 minutes ago. I want to see if there's a deviation, not hours, minutes, that affected my response times, and I can just apply. And what I'm going to get now is basically the delta only. And then I can extend that query. Let's say I want to take 24 hours. And now I see this spike. I see a version upgrade. Coralogix integrates to the CI/CD pipeline. So whenever there's an upgrade, we benchmark that upgrade. I'll show you that in a minute. But I can also see that on the grid as an annotation. So I see now there was a spike here, and suddenly GET requests are taking 300 milliseconds instead of 88. So I can basically zoom now into this area of the graph. But what I can also do is I can filter out to see logs now, or errors that are related to that time period. So we're actually correlating now logs and metrics together on the same screen. And then I can set up my own actions and custom actions. So what I've done here, I can create a new plugin, for instance. And what I've done here, I've created one for my EC2 instances. It searches for the EC2 name inside the log and lets me hop. So I see that there was latency, and I see that I had an error code, failed to charge a card. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go to my plugins and ask for the instance details inside EC2. Session is expired, okay. Never mind, the session is expired, but I basically am taken from Coralogix to my Amazon console, and I can see the EC2 instance. Let's say I want to check an IP and see if it's suspicious. I can just go to virus total. Now, these are not predefined. I can define whatever plugins I want. So you can think about plugins that you create inside your organizations that connect you to internal tools within the organization, and you can hop from every key to every tool, whether it's your own Grafana or Jaeger, or you want to use us as the data source for that. And then when I get a view of these errors, and I see that they are related to the spike, I don't have to look at 36,000 because we have logregation, automatic templating in stream. And then I can see that this sort of error happens 7,800 times, the 500 error. And I can click the occurrences and actually visualize it. And you can really see how it's spiked together with the response times, the elevated response times, because we also measure the normal amount that we typically see for this error. So if I want to continue investigating, I can just zoom into that error, look at all error regardless of the variables, take one, ask to query around it. So give me surrounding logs from 30 seconds around this error, and then I can just take that specific 500 request and include it in my query, and then create an alert straight from here. Now, all these alerts run in stream, and this is the most extensive alerting mechanism for logs, metrics, tracing, security information. So I can go and say, the standard alerts notify me immediately, more or less, but also more than usual. We build a model for you and basically create a dynamic threshold. I can go by ratio. So if this is 500 and this is 200, I can request an alert to my Slack, pager, or create some sort of automatic action based on the ratio. So if 500s divided by 200s is more than 0.1 in an hour, meaning more than 10% of my requests were 500s, then I want to receive an alert. I also get the new value detection, unique count, cardinality is very powerful, so only alert me on 500s. If it happens to more than 100 pod IPs in an hour, and I can group this by region or cluster or whatever I want, or time relative, because many times we don't know what's the right threshold for 500s. We saw that spike, but I don't know if it happens every day or not, so I can just go and say, if it happened more than twice it did in the previous hour, or the same hour last week or yesterday, only then I want to receive an alert. And I can also alert on the metrics. So I can go and say, alert if, remember our parameter of the HTTP took in milliseconds, alert me if the 90th percentile of the HTTP responses is more than 1,000 milliseconds for over 90% of the past hour. And I can group this by any other of the keys, the labels that are relevant, and also be notified once this is resolved. So basically, I create easy investigations of cross, logs, metrics, security, and traces. I can create the alerts straight from here, whether it's logs or metrics or tracing, or combine them into a single flow alert. And you remember that version benchmark, that tag that we saw in the data, I can actually benchmark automatically. Just clicking the tag by integrating to any CI/CD pipeline, we can tell you that you have less new errors in this version, but you still have errors that we haven't seen before. Now, because we cluster everything in stream, we know how to tell that an error is new. No one can tell that an error is new because they haven't seen that error before. Now, I can actually take you all the way to that particular error and tell you that this template error, invalid memory address, never happened before your latest upgrade. And I can even add my own custom widgets and track every graph version over version, just like I compared the timeframes on other queries. And this is super cost efficient because we have the quota optimizer, where I can define policies and basically assign data to different pipelines. So because Corelogics happens everything in stream, everything happens in Kafka, we don't need the storage. So the first stop of data is not being stored somewhere and then periodic queries run on it or aggregations run on it. Everything happens in stream. So I can basically decide that a certain amount of data goes through a few stations in the pipeline, then leaves, and a certain amount of data goes through all pipelines. So if my use case is monitoring, and I need the live tail, the stream, like a tail, a grep, whether it's the CLI or RUI, if I need alerts, dashboards, anomalies, the clustering, logregation that you've seen, benchmarks and all that, I don't need to frequently search the data, then I can just go to our monitoring use case or compliance use case if it's just debug logs that I rarely need. But the cool thing is that I can actually query that data directly from the archive. This archive, you see it's a little slower than the Coralogix queries, take like 10, 15 seconds, but it actually queries a remote S3 storage or any other remote storage very soon. So I can go and say, use my Snowflake, use my GCP, use my Azure blob, but I can use this with Lucene syntax, even though the data never went through Elastic. I can use this with Lucene syntax or SQL. I can run aggregations on it. I get everything clustered and aggregated. And I also have an offline interface for this, where I can run long-term archive queries on longer periods of time. And there, I can even do SQL operations or parsing on the fly or any modifications to the data after it's already been stored to my archive and keep the results as reports. And I can preview the results. I can download them as a CSV or re-index them if I really want to investigate them all over again. So the power here is basically infinite scale, very powerful analytics, a single pane of glass for logs, metrics, tracing, and security. Really a single pane of glass, not just hopping between them with links. And it's pluggable to any dashboard that you guys know in the space. So if you want to attach here, I attach Kibana, but I can attach Grafana or Jaeger or an SQL client or anything else. So it's really powerful within the organization to do all the different operations besides just monitoring and observability. Thank you very much.